Right. Good afternoon or good morning or good evening, depending on what time it is where you're joining us from. My name is Sarah Lucan. I use she, her pronouns, and I am an Associate Director of Admissions and Recruitment for the Brown School at Washington University in St. Louis. Today, I am joined by a panel of my lovely colleagues who are going to be here to answer any question that you have about enrolling in the Brown School this fall. This is a session especially for the fall 2023 cohort. We know that there are many tasks that we're asking you to do this summer and things to consider as you're getting ready to come to the Brown School. And so we are here to help demystify that process as best we can and answer all of your questions. So before we get started, just a couple housekeeping things. This session is being recorded. So for those who are watching live, if you need to drop off at any moment, you can come back and watch it later. It will be posted on YouTube and the link to the Zoom recording will be available on our website as well. Closed captioning is enabled for this session. And this is a webinar, so we are unable to see or hear you, but you can introduce yourself in the chat, which I see many folks doing now. Thank you so much. So glad that you're here joining us live. We also ask that if you have questions during the session to please use the Q&A function instead of the chat feature. That way we can kind of separate which of the questions that you have so we can answer those as we get to the question portion of the session. So with that, I will go ahead and ask my colleagues to introduce themselves. Here is who's on the panel today. And so if each can go down the list, introduce yourself, and we'll go from there.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dominique Sandheinert. I'm the Director of Student Financial Services, specifically for the Brown School. So we're excited to have you, and I'm definitely here to answer any questions that you may have regarding your funding and moving forward for the next academic year.
Hey everyone, my name is Chloe Risto, she, her pronouns. I am the Academic Advising Coordinator here at the Brown School, so I'll be answering some curricular-based questions in today's webinar, and I might just be somebody's academic advisor out there, depending on who's here with us today. Welcome.
Hello, everyone. So good to see you here virtually. I am Zizi Shishili. I use she, her, hers pronouns. I'm currently serving as the Global Programs Office Manager, and very happy to be here and answer any questions related to international students and scholar support. Welcome, everyone.
Hello, all. My name is Laura. I'm about to start my second year at the Brown School. I'm an MSW student. I'm here to answer any questions you might have about what it's like to be a student at the Brown School or about what it's like to move to St. Louis from a different place.
I've already introduced myself, but again, I'm Sarah Lucan, she, her pronouns, Associate Director of Admissions and Recruitment, and here to answer any questions around just kind of the stepping stones to get to the Brown School. So anything logistics around, enrollment and that sort of thing, I can kind of help with.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shana Peterson, Admissions and Recruitment Specialist at the Brown School. I've probably communicated with many of you throughout the past year. So I work with Sarah closely, and just like her, I'm here to help with any questions related to getting you here, submitting, documentation that you need, and then connecting you to anyone else who might be helpful. So happy to see everyone here.
Thanks, everyone. So before we dive into your questions, which thank you to those who submitted some questions beforehand, we have quite a few to get through. And so we're going to do our very best to get through all of the pre-submitted questions first, and then try to save some time at the end for any questions that get submitted during the Q&A. And so, hopefully we'll answer your question as we're going along, but if we don't, feel free to put it into the Q&A function and we'll try to get to it. But before we do that, we wanted to go through just a few logistics, things to keep in mind and what you should be doing right now in order to prepare to come to the Brown School. So first and foremost, hopefully, if you are planning to come to the Brown School, you have submitted your intent to enroll, you have received the fall 2023 enrollment packet and have read that, maybe skimmed it a little bit, but hopefully starting to read it a little more thoroughly over these next few days. There are a lot of important steps in that enrollment packet, and we know it's jam-packed with a lot of information. So we're going to talk about some of those steps during this session for sure. But please always have that handy and refer back to it often throughout the summer. It's located on the Brown School Admitted Student Resources webpage on our website. Within the enrollment packet, there are several steps for you to complete. And step one is establishing your WashU credentials. So your WUSTL key, if you haven't heard anyone say that out loud yet, yes, we pronounce it WUSTL, W-U-S-T-L. Your WUSTL key, and then your @wustel.edu email address. So you'll follow the instructions to create that. Many of you probably have already done this, but if you were recently submitted your intent to enroll, it could take a little time. So just bear that in mind as you're establishing these credentials. You're trying to log into some systems. It could take a few days sometimes for you to gain access to all university systems. So have some patience, but if you see some problems that are persisting, reach out to us individually and we'll be happy to help troubleshoot. And then after step one, we'll ask you to complete steps 2 through 4 in the enrollment packet. So that's installing the 2-factor authentication. It's the kind of second layer of login that you'll need to sign into any WashU system when you're not on campus. You'll have access to update your contact information in WebStack, which is your student account at WashU. And then we'll also ask you to complete some tasks in the Brown Hub, including signing the student handbook and declaring your concentration or specialization. If you would like to take proficiency exams, then you need to register now. If you are watching this with us today, it is June 7th. The deadline to take proficiency exams is tomorrow, June 8th. And so if you have any questions around that, having issues with proficiency exams, you can reach out to our office or reach out to the registrar's office and we can share that contact information too. But hopefully you've gotten into the system, you've got access to Canvas and can start taking those proficiency exams if you have not done so already. And then you might notice I've skipped step 6, but step 6 is specifically for MSW advanced standing students. You'll want to register for your Bridge to Brown course. And if you have questions about that, let us know and we can talk to you about that individually as well. But for everyone else, including advanced standing students, steps 7 and 8 are searching for your courses and then creating a course registration worksheet. You might have some questions that you need your academic advisor to answer, and that's great. You can reach out to them anytime. And Chloe is also here to answer any questions that you might have. And I know we had a few submitted it beforehand about course registration, so we'll kind of go through some of those today too. And then finally, you'll get approved to register. Allow a couple weekdays for your advisor to review your registration worksheet and respond. If you submit it on a Friday, it may not be until that next Monday or Tuesday that you hear back. But once you get approved to register, then you will be all set for course registration. I'm going to pass it to Shayna to go from there.
Yeah, so after that, we just have our registration when course registration begins for everyone. And I know there are a lot of dates and deadlines that we have, so we try to make it really clear, just important to kind of stay on top of everything as best as you can. So after, as Sarah said, after you complete those steps 1 through 9, you'll be ready to register for your courses. And course registration will begin a little bit later this month, Tuesday, June 27th, for our MSW Advanced Standing students, and then the following day, Wednesday, June 28th, for all other students. So again, like Sarah said, just be sure that you are completing all the prior steps in advance and communicating with your academic advisor so that you can be ready to register on these dates. So we are going to try to communicate with you throughout the summer to make sure that you're staying on top of everything that you need to do before you arrive on campus this fall. You should have already received your June summer checklist via email. That's there on the left. So a lot of this we've already gone through today with setting up your WUSTL key, starting to get your registration worksheets ready. If you for some reason didn't receive this via email, definitely check your email and make sure you're receiving our emails, but we've also linked it on our website. So this is under the admitted student resources section of the Brown School website. You can see that little arrow there that's pointed to the words that say review the June checklist. Just click on that, it will take you exactly to this checklist. So as you can see there, establishing access, we have a few things. And then we've listed a few academic items there that Sarah already went through, proficiency exams and things like that. And then congratulations, you're all doing the optional thing, which is watching our Ask Us Anything virtual information session. We will be sending out July and August summer checklists at the end of each month. So just be on the lookout for those. In each of those checklists, it's really important to kind of go through each of those items because there are so many different things to do, ranging from, getting your WUSTL key set up, to registering for courses, to submitting your transcripts and immunization records. So just be sure that you're going through each of those things to make sure that you're checking all those boxes. All of this is also outlined in the enrollment packet that everyone should have received by now. Sarah mentioned that at the very beginning. I know it's really long. It's like 38 pages long or something like that, but just be sure to be reading through all of those to help you stay on track and make sure that you're getting everything in time. And then, of course, after you have established your WUSTL email and your WUSTL key, you want to be sure to check that pretty frequently. Also check your personal email regularly because we will be sending out a lot of communication over the summer to make sure everyone's staying on top of everything. We also are offering this summer some virtual office hours. We already offered our May office hours, but we have one coming up in June on the 23rd from 1 to 3, and then on Friday, July 23rd from 1 to 3. So those are just kind of like this info session today. We're going to have a couple of staff members on there, just an open Zoom link for you to pop in and ask us any kind of questions. On our last office hours, we had a good number of students on there, so they might be asking questions that you also have. So we would invite you to log on to those and just ask us any questions. And then, of course, you can also email us at any time if we can help with anything.
All right, thanks, Shayna. And there's a little typo on this slide. It's July 21st, but it is Friday, July 21st. So yeah, save the date for those and we'll be sending out communication about them as well. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. And now we are going to dive into all of the great questions that you submitted beforehand. I've kind of organized them by category, and so hopefully that'll help with keeping us on track. And like I said in the beginning, if you have questions or things come up for you as we're talking through some of this information, feel free to put it in the Q&A function, and that'll help us keep your questions organized. So first, we're going to start with funding questions for Dominique. We received quite a few of these, and so the very first one, and a common one that we get almost all the time, is, are there current available funding opportunities for admitted students? So Dominique, I'll let you get started with that.
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's a question I get often. I would say probably every semester. Is there other opportunities? And so as a department, we always want to encourage our students to start the scholarship search the December before you come into your next year or start your program. Most of those opportunities are open. They're available to all students based on eligibility requirements. But as of right now, like June 7th, a lot of those opportunities have closed, have been awarded already. And so I encourage students to look at our external scholarship page and our new financial wellness page. It's called iGrad, and I'll put that in the chat. And it's an opportunity for students to learn a little bit more about financial literacy, understand other scholarship opportunities and searching for scholarship, budgeting, international students kind of understanding what it takes to come to the Brown School, how to budget and pay for that, talks about sponsors. So there's a lot of opportunity for you to gain knowledge. But as of right now, every funding opportunity that you'll need will either come from something like AmeriCorps, or it will be an external amount. Your Brown School Scholarship was already awarded through the Admissions and Recruitment Department. So that is set, and that will be divided across your program. So you will not get additional funding through the Brown School, but we always welcome external funding, and we'll make sure that's applied to your student account correctly.
Thanks, Dom.
Yeah.
The next question, and great time for this, when am I able to see my financial aid package?
Yes. So as some of you may know, the university is going through a lot of transition. And so we have been a little bit behind on packaging, but you should have received your financial aid package. If you have not received it, it is probably because you're either a dual student, maybe a 16-month advanced standing student, and we are working on those today and tomorrow. So you should get that within the next 24 to 48 hours. All of your instructions are in there to accept your loans. If you are not borrowing federal loans, your admissions letter will be your package. If you plan to take out and borrow the Graduate Plus loan or the Federal Direct Unsubsidized loan, then you will get a breakdown package of the loan amount and or federal work study if you're eligible. And if you're not eligible to take federal loans, or you just say, I pay with cash, or you have other means of paying your tuition, you will not receive an actual package. These are only for students who are using federal student aid, but your scholarship will be divided and applied to your web stack, which is your student record, will be applied correctly. So you should see your package. If you don't see it now, I'd say about 90% of our students have gotten their packages. If not, definitely contact my department or me directly, and we'll be sure to get that package to you.
Thanks, Dom. And say I'm someone who just submitted my intent to enroll. When might I expect that financial aid package if I'm someone who just decided I'm going to join the Brown School this fall?
Absolutely. If you just decided, say, for instance, you decided yesterday, I would say give us about a week, a little under a week, and we'll get that package to you. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
What are the available tuition payment plans for students with partial funding?
Absolutely. So majority of our scholarships are going to be partial funding, so will not be full. And so always plan on looking for additional funding. And then if you cannot pay that in full, there are payment plan options through student billing, which I will send a link as well. That is a $40 fee to enroll in the payment plan that is specific and unique to Washington University. If you do not wish to enroll in the payment plan, you can continue to make payments without an actual scheduled payment plan, but we want to ensure that your tuition is paid off by the end of the semester, because it will put a hold on your account and prevent you from registering for spring. So tuition needs to be paid in full. Late fees do get applied, so definitely talk to me if late fees applied. Talk to me about your financial circumstances. If something's come up and maybe you lost a sponsor as an international student, a wire payment didn't come through, or so this financial situation occurred in your life and you cannot make that payment or pay it off, you've got to communicate, because if you do not, that fee will stay applied on your account and it will prevent you from registering in spring. Yeah.
Thanks, Dom. And then the last question that was submitted beforehand was specifically for international students, just advice around additional financial aid for international students.
Yes, so a lot of our international students, there's a big barrier for funding for our international students, and we definitely recognize that. And so we encourage students to definitely look at our external scholarship page, look at our loan options, those are private loan options. So we encourage you to look at those interest rates, any other fees and payment plans. And then I'm gonna put in the chat after I'm done, again, the iGrad financial wellness will also help accommodate our international students and additional funding, or at least look to see if they're eligible for some scholarships. But I always encourage our international students to secure your funding, make sure you can support yourself while you're here. There is no additional funding to support your housing or any parts of your lifestyle. So make sure you have enough funding to live while you're here at the Brown School.
Thanks, Dominique. And so we will be sharing contact information at the end of the session too. So if you're watching the recorded version of this and would like to get in touch with Dominique's department, we'll have the contact information displayed on the screen for you. So you can reach out later, or you can always reach out to the admissions office and we'll get you connected too. All right, so the next set of questions are all about accessing WashU systems and course registration. And so I'm going to look to my colleague Chloe to answer a lot of these questions. And Shana and I might also be able to answer some too. But first, we're going to just kind of go through some questions around navigating WebStack, course selection, registering, all that fun stuff. So very simply, how do I register for courses in WebStack, and when does registration begin?
Great question. So depending on if you are an advanced standing student or a regular student who's MPH or MSW or MSP, you have two different registration dates. So like we showed in the slides, June 27 is advanced standing for MSW students. You will register at 9 a.m. Central. So if you haven't figured out the time difference yet, figure out what that is, but it's 9 a.m. Central. And every other student will be June 28, that's a Wednesday, at 9 a.m. Central. So mark that in your calendars and have your computer on and start refreshing your page about 3 minutes beforehand. You will log into WebStack to register for your courses. The enrollment packet is going to help you with this, with those step-by-steps. But on WebStack, you will build a registration worksheet, which is under one menu option called Courses and Registration. On registration day, you'll go back to that same menu, Courses and Registration. However, click on the word registration. Do not click on registration worksheet. Big difference. And you'll want to know this in the moment. When you click on registration, all the classes that you have built into your worksheet will show up on that page. And row by row, you have to hover your mouse over the class title, and there's a little button that says Add Course. So row by row, you're going to click Add Course, Add Course, Add Course. Yeah, sorry to tell you, there's no one magic button. You must go row by row. So be ready, my friends.
Thanks, Chloe. And the next question is very related. How do we know what courses we need to take the first semester?
Great question. Y'all, the enrollment packet is literally your best friend. The enrollment packet is going to tell you exactly the classes you need to take if you are a regular standing student. Okay, if you are a 2-year Master's of Social Work, a 2-year Master's of Public Health, a 1-year MSP, look at your enrollment packet. It will tell you exactly what you need. If you are an advanced standing student, you need to contact Melissa Arnold, who is your advisor, and Melissa will help you determine what your fall schedule will look like.
Perfect. Thank you, Chloe. And then we did have a question specifically around practicum. So for MSW, but then we might, also answer this for MPH too. Does it begin in the first semester or the second semester?
All of our regular standing 2-year students, if you are an MSW 2-year student, you will start in spring, not fall, just courses in fall. If you are a 2-year MPH student, you won't do that probably till first summer. So don't worry about it at all for this first year. You're not going to log hours until most likely summertime. There might be some variances on that, but most likely summertime. If you are an advanced standing student in the MSW program, talk to Melissa. There's a chance you're going to start logging your hours for your concentration practicum this fall. So regular standing, no. Advanced standing, talk to Melissa, because maybe.
Thanks. And yeah, and Laura, now that you've kind of gone through that process too, anything to add about just, kind of maybe demystifying a little bit around the practicum experience?
I would say professors in pretty much every class, even if they're not responsible for your practicum, are great about giving advice, reminders about when you should be applying and what you should be looking for. I would say it's not something to feel anxious about, just because there are people to kind of help guide you at every step of the way.
Thank you. Yeah, we had a hard time hearing you, Laura, so maybe I might have you repeat that. I think a few of us had a hard time hearing you.
Is this any better? How about this? Okay, great. I was just saying that professors in pretty much every class will give you kind of reminders in your classes, even if they're not relevant to practicum, about when you should be looking, when you should be applying. Pretty much every staff member at the Brown School is happy to help and give advice or point you in the right direction. So I would just say it's really nothing to be anxious about, simply because you're surrounded by guidance throughout the entire process. You will be reminded, you will be helped. Yeah.
So thanks, Laura. And then we received quite a few questions from folks, just, seeing some error messages around, registering for proficiency exams, trying to register with the Brown Hub, trying to successfully log into Outlook, which is the email server that we use at WashU for your Worcester.edu email address. If you are having issues with logging into any system, give it a few, give it a day or two, or if you just established your credentials, because as we shared earlier, sometimes it can take a little while for the system to get caught up with you as a new user. And so give it a couple days. If it's still not working, Chloe just posted into the chat. And Chloe, I'll have you share that again to everyone. It looks like it just went to hosts and panelists. The student IT website. We've got an IT team that is fantastic and can help troubleshoot anything related to logging in and using your credentials and accessing systems. So you might start there too, if you're still seeing some error messages. And then we had a specific question about trying to find a specific course. This one was about global health, but someone was saying that they couldn't see it on their course registration worksheet. So do you have any advice, Chloe, around like finding some specific courses that are not showing up?
Sure. Yeah. If you cannot find a specific course, for example, global health, if we have global health concentrators out there and you do need to take that in your first fall, I would recommend reaching out to your academic advisor. There is a very good chance that what is happening is we are in final conversations with a faculty member who will be teaching that course. So if you don't see something, it could be because we're waiting on the faculty member to confirm the date and the time that they will be able to teach that class. So be in contact with your academic advisor and they should be able to give you some updates. And I will add, I believe there was a question about proficiency exams and someone couldn't see that they were registered for it, you do need to accept the invitation, which is in your Woostel email. So you used Qualtrics form, I believe, to indicate I want to do the proficiency exam. You have to check your Woostel email to get the invite. You have to accept the invite, and then it will appear in your Canvas. And if you do not see it on your Canvas dashboard, you should navigate to the left side of the screen where there's a menu, and you can look to see what courses you have, and you should be able to find the proficiency exam as a course in your Canvas. So I wanted to add that as well.
Perfect. Thank you for jumping backward to that question. Awesome. I think those were all of the course registration related questions. We might have received a few during the live session, so we'll jump into those toward the end, but I'm going to move on to the next set of questions. We received a lot of general questions about housing, how to find affordable housing, when should I start doing this? And so I'm going to have Laura speak to that as a current student, just what her experience was with finding housing in St. Louis and near WashU. And then, of course, my colleagues can jump in too if they have any other advice. But Laura, would you like to share just what your experience was and advice that you have for folks who are looking for housing?
Yeah, so I moved to St. Louis from Boston. All of the housing research that I did was done from afar. It is possible. There are a couple of different paths you can take with this. WashU has sort of graduate student off-campus sponsored housing. There's pretty limited options there, but budget-wise, if you can find something that you like that's available, probably the cheapest thing that you'll be able to find that's close to WashU. That's quadrangle housing. I can drop a link for that in the chat in a little bit. Those tend to go pretty fast. I'm not even sure how much is available at this point, but definitely worth looking for. Thank you, Shayna. For me, I found something, I was a little bit too late to get into that, but I was still able to find something that I liked. It's just a little bit farther away from campus. I live in University City, which is about a 7-minute drive to campus. I pay, me and 2 other roommates split the cost of a $1,400 apartment. So definitely pretty affordable for an urban area. I would say finding something in that price range is hard if you're looking to walk to school. But if you're willing to drive, even like I said, 5 to 10 minutes, definitely easier to find something in that kind of budget range. I found my house by Googling. There's a lot of websites that exist to kind of collect apartments that are available to rent that are pretty easy to find just by using a normal search engine. And I would say in my experience, those became available much nearer to the date that I was ready to move. So I was really not able to lock something down until the month before I moved. And then when I was looking then, there was a lot of availability with a pretty quick turnover. So I never felt stressed about not being able to find something just because while things were closing pretty quickly, lots of other things were opening up. I'm not an expert in the housing market, so I'm not exactly sure how that'll be this year. But that was kind of my experience. There are a number of like apartment companies that exist. There are also a lot of small-time private landlords, which is who I am renting from. If you have any other specific questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Oh, I should say one other thing. I really wanted to have roommates, and I used the WashU roommate finder for that process. I don't know if someone else can quickly drop that link, or I can find it too later if that's helpful. If you haven't seen it yet, you just write up a little bio about yourself, your living preferences, and then through that kind of connect with other people who are interested in sharing living space, who are connected through WashU. That was a great, easy process for me.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura. All super helpful tips. Shayna, do you have some more to add?
Yeah, I was just going to add, excuse me, one thing. I'm going to drop a link in the chat to the WashU shuttle system. I think this is also a good resource. If you're a student and you cannot find housing within walking distance of campus, WashU has, I think, a pretty good like shuttle system that goes to a lot of the surrounding neighborhoods, and a lot of students do take advantage of that. As a student, you also will have a pass to our bus system, the St. Louis City like bus system and light rail system, and there's bus stops and light rail stops around campus too. So that's something else to think about if you're looking at a neighborhood that's like a little further away from campus and maybe you don't have a car, or you don't want to drive. This is something to think about as well. So I just put the link to that in the chat.
Thanks, Shayna. Yeah, the transportation piece, I think, can be a big factor for a lot of folks in considering where they want to live. St. Louis does have public transportation. It is not as robust as what you might experience in other metro areas. So just be aware of that when you're coming to St. Louis, that wait times for public transportation may be a little longer than you experience if, say, you're in a place like New York or Chicago even. But it does exist, and students do make it work. The other point I wanted to add in that link that Shayna shared to our housing resources, we have a map of St. Louis with some of the more popular neighborhoods that our students have lived in over the past years. So if you're just not really familiar with the city of St. Louis, we are a city of many, many neighborhoods, and each neighborhood has its own kind of feel and things to offer. So depending on what's important to you, what you want to have access to, what you want to see out your front door when you walk outside, there's a lot to choose from, and that map can kind of help narrowing down some of those neighborhoods if you're curious about where some of our students typically live. Yeah, anything else others would add about housing or transportation?
Yeah, I just want to remind students of the student responsibility, and to make sure that you understand that your lifestyle, like, remember when you go into an apartment, you have a deposit, you have utilities, you have things that you have to pay for. That is your responsibility because you come into the graduate program as an independent student. And so it's not the university's responsibility for any of those additional costs for your living. So be sure that you, just like Laura said, using roommates, being able to stay within your budget, because we don't want students to depend on the university to pay for any of their housing needs. That's not actually an option. And so be sure that when you're coming to, whether you're coming overseas or within the United States, that you have budgeted for your rent each month, for your deposit, again, utilities, transportation, food, anything like that. Have emergency funds if you can for any health concerns that you may have, or appointments that you may have to get to, or prescriptions. Again, you are independent, so you are responsible for those bills and those needs for your personal well-being. So it's just a simple reminder. I know sometimes students want to come and ask us for a lot of funding. That's not what we're here for. So we want to make sure that your tuition and fees are covered and how we can help you take care of that. But everything else, definitely lean on your resources that you have in place, budget, prepare before coming, okay? So, yeah.
Thanks, Dawn. Those are all really great points. I just linked in the chat to our Financing Your Education guide. There are some really helpful tables in there for budgeting purposes. So if you want to review that too, to just kind of help get yourself, in the mindset of what things you need to think about financially before you start courses, that can be a helpful resource as well. All right, anything else you want to add before we move on to the next set of questions? All right, so we received a few questions that are specifically for international students, and so Zizi will be looking to you to answer some of these questions. And this actually kind of goes off of the question that we just had about housing, wondering, when they should secure accommodations. Do we need to secure accommodations before traveling to the Brown School? What are your, advice specifically for international students kind of navigating the housing options?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. First of all, I know that Laura, Shane, and also Dom have covered a lot of like housing resources. So if whether you are an international student or not, please, try to look for housing as soon as possible, because this is just like very significant for you to kind of like relocate yourself, especially if you're not from the US. Typically, international students would secure their housing before their arrival. There might be like really few cases that student were not able to secure housing, but typically student would do it. And then I would say, yeah, if that answer your question, but sure answer. And then if you have hard time, securing housing, please feel free to reach out to me. I will type in my email address there. We will try to connect you with maybe current students or alumni who may have some leasing resources that we may help you to connect with. Yeah.
Thanks, Susie.
Can I add one more point really quick? So there was a question regarding fill in your emergency contact, including your housing location in the US. So yes, please secure the housing first, and then you will be able to fill in that information on WebStack.
Perfect. Thanks, Susie. Yeah, and so you can leave that blank or leave it empty until you're able to secure your housing location. Next question. Folks are curious about the last date that they should expect their I-20s. Do you have a timeline in mind for folks?
So this is a really good question. I would say each individual's I-20 processing timeline could look very different, because maybe there might be some insufficient documentation, or the information needs to be correct. But typically, students will get their I-20 in 6 to 8 weeks. So that's a typical timeline. I don't have a final deadline for all the students to get their I-20, but I would say we encourage you to submit the documents as soon as possible, so that will allow you to have some time to initiate your visa appointment process. So incoming international students have to arrive in the US no later than August 2023, because we will have a mandatory international orientation from August 21st to August 22nd. So you don't want to miss that really important section to help you to prep for your journey in the US.
Thanks, Susie. And we do have a list of all of those important dates too that we'll share at the end as well. So you've got those on your calendar, and you'll get plenty of reminders from us too. The next question is specifically for folks who have deferred. So if you are someone who got admitted last year and you deferred, maybe paid a SEVIS fee, and are curious if you need to pay that again. So Zizi, can you shed some light on what that would look like for our deferrals?
Yeah, so the short answer is yes. So if you have to defer your decision to next year, you have to pay for the SEVIS fee again. So the Office for International Students and Scholars is the office in WashU that help international students to get these really important legal documents like I-20. And in order to issue a new I-20, and that includes a new SEVIS number, for this reason, students have to repay the SEVIS fee in order to get a new I-20.
Right, thank you. And then the last question we had was about English proficiency exams. So if you could talk a little bit about what that process looks like for international students.
Yeah, so first of all, for this year's English proficiency test, we are currently finalizing some details with our instructors, and also we need to have, just really try to carefully review your English proficiency score for your application. So not every international student has to take this English test. So if you need to take one, we will definitely send you an email and tell you the following instructions, like how to get in the test, how to prep for that. So if you haven't got one, just try to be patient and allow us some more time to finalize the details, and then you will get the information soon. And if you pass the English test, which is great that you don't have to take the English course in the upcoming fall semester. But if you fail the English course, you can enroll in a free English course in the fall to help you to prep for your academic life, including like, how to prep for a presentation, how to do like academic writing. So either way, just relax, you don't have to stress too much about it. And the English course is free. It doesn't cost any extra tuition fee. That's just one last note.
Great, thank you, Zizi. All right, so the last set of questions that we have are really about student life, as well as campus-based positions, part-time jobs, and then career outcomes. I'm glad that some folks are even thinking about what's next. So first, a very specific question, but I think just, what is the community of students like? And we had a question about whether or not there are students who are parents. And Chloe, I was going to see if you could speak to that a little bit about our Brown School community of students.
Sure thing. I think one of the perks of the Brown School community is how diverse the student body is. So you will come here and sit in classes with students who may have just finished their undergraduate degree, students who are returning after doing a career switch and they were working in another sector for 20-25 years. And you're going to have students who are parents and students who are not parents. Specifically for the students as parent or parents as students question, while the Brown School does not currently have an official group that is for students who are parents, we are in conversation with like all the graduate programs on campus and what the Graduate Center offers and the various programming. Currently, there are conversations with some of our colleagues across campus to kind of get a better sense of what are all the various affinity groups that we have available for graduate students? What are our resources? So there's a solid chance that if you are a parent and you are joining us in the fall, that you might be coming at a perfect time when there's going to be a group that gets created. But if not, you might anticipate more of an organic discovery of who of your other classmates also are parents, but they are here and you will be in class with them, but I don't have like a list to share with you. So yeah, so be ready for all kinds of experiences sitting in the classroom with you. Oh yeah, Bears with Cubs. There's this like cute little, over commencement week. There was this great celebration that the university, like the commencement office, did with our Center for Diversity and Inclusion. They did this celebration called Bears with Cubs. Oh, if you don't know yet, Washington University, our mascot is the Bears. So the parents are the Bears and the kids are the Cubs. So they did a very cute Bears with Cubs celebration. So we do have that, which leads me to think that we're starting to, create more spaces for our parents who are also students.
Yeah, thanks, Chloe. And thanks, Shayna, for sharing the link to the Graduate Center. Yeah, I want to elevate them too, because we just had a really great conversation as well with the Graduate Center. And like Chloe said, it sounds like there's a lot of really, really great initiatives in the works for resources for our graduate students, specifically at WashU. And then, of course, I'd be remiss to not allow Laura to talk a little bit too about just her experience as a student and just the community that you have been a part of the last year at the Brown School.
I would definitely echo what Chloe said about kind of the diversity of experiences and backgrounds being incredibly valuable and interesting. I obviously have wonderful professors who teach me many things, but I feel like the most that I've learned has been from listening to people talk about their prior experiences, either in school or in other jobs, even in their personal lives. And the way that material gets applied in discussions about personal experience is really where I feel like I retain the most and learn the most. And I would definitely say that I've been impressed with just the incredible variety of backgrounds that people come to the Brown School with. Because the program isn't huge, I'm not sure how many incoming students there are, but certainly less than 200. You pretty much get to know, at least by name and face, who everybody is by the end of the year, which definitely creates a sense of cohesion and togetherness. In my experience, everyone has been very friendly, very eager to make new friends, very welcoming to new faces. There's kind of a common area in one of the buildings where lots of people eat lunch between classes. So you kind of get to know faces pretty quickly in that area, as well as because everyone is in kind of the same foundation classes. You kind of rotate through having classes with a bunch of different people in your cohort year. Yeah, just overall pretty easy to kind of feel familiar and comfortable with the group, and lots of friendliness.
I love that. Thanks, Laura. All right, and then we had a few questions about job openings, research opportunities, part-time work. And so Shayna, I'll ask if you can speak a little to just what that process looks like, and then maybe have Laura jump in as well with her experience in securing part-time work.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is going to look a little bit different from, if you were admitted in the spring and you started to look for jobs, maybe I've already secured a job, to what it looks like being a student on campus looking for a job. So I'll just kind of speak to all the different opportunities. So the first thing I would say is that on the Brown School website, on that admitted student resources section that we keep referencing, there is a little drop down there that we've called, we call it campus-based fellowships, research assistantships, and part-time jobs. So on that section of our website, we're posting jobs that we know about. Like, we've talked to our campus partners and asked them to let us know about any job openings. So anything that we know about, we'll post there, and that is open for any incoming student to apply for. Another option, if you're interested specifically in research assistant positions, is to just go ahead and reach out to some of our research centers. Those are all on our website. So a lot of students secure jobs by just reaching out to a research center that they're interested in. You can, tell them a little bit about yourself, send your resume, things like that, and just inquire about open positions. I do believe that a lot of research centers don't yet know about their funding for the upcoming year, so they'll know more about that in the summer when funding renews. So if they don't know about that, don't worry too much about that. I think more jobs will open up later in the summer and early in the fall. So along those lines, once you arrive on campus for orientation, during that orientation week, the Brown School does host an in-person part-time job fair. So that is a great resource for students. At that part-time job fair, we'll have opportunities for on-campus jobs as well as off-campus jobs. So that's a great time to come and get to know people. Bring your resume, just sort of network and find some good opportunities there. And then the last thing that I'll say, and Sarah, just correct me if I'm wrong about when students get access to Handshake. So Handshake is our sort of website that students will use for finding part-time jobs as well as practicum opportunities. So don't worry about practicum, that will come later, as Chloe said, but once you get access to Handshake, you can start logging in there and looking for part-time job opportunities. So I think that you get access to Handshake once you have your WUSTL key. Is that right, Sarah? Okay, so that's another option as well.
Yeah, and another opportunity I wanted to highlight too, I think this is new this year. So WashU over the last couple of years has been working to really kind of consolidate, but make even more robust our career services. And the Career Center at WashU will be hosting this year an on-campus student employment fair on August 31st. So another opportunity to get in person with folks once you get here and talk about positions. But like Shayna said, you will have access to Handshake. So any position that you're applying to that's a campus-based position, more than likely you're going to be applying to it through Handshake. So you should have access to that now if you've got your WashU credentials. Laura, do you want to share a little bit about what your experience is like securing part-time work?
Yeah, so I had a couple of part-time jobs during the school year. I have a couple of different part-time jobs over the summer. I will say the community of the Brown School, its alumni, its current staff and students is a powerful group. They know a lot of people. Every part-time job I've gotten has been through a connection through the Brown School somehow. Of course, I'm a student ambassador for the admissions office, which I love. It's a great place to work. I don't know if we're hiring, but we're hiring. But yeah, I think through the job fair is where I found the admissions position. Definitely recommend that. There were quite a few things that I was interested in at the job fair, a number of things that I applied to. Apart from that, there is a Brown School student and alumni Facebook page, which you can type in and sort of request to be allowed in. And there are lots of people who post either job opportunities or post that they're looking. It's very active. People do respond. And that's how I found a number of my part-time positions. Both my summer part-time positions were found through random people on that page. Yeah, in terms of going beyond that, one of the positions that I had during the school year was at a school district that does before and after school programming. If you're interested in working with kids at all, looking for something like that can work really well with a school schedule because it often has afternoon or early morning hours. Again, I would just say reach out to the Brown community through Facebook. Sometimes professors will have leads. That job fair, so great. There's also a GroupMe group where people often will post job openings that they've heard about or seen. I got added to that automatically when I confirmed my enrollment. I'm not sure who did that or how, but I'm sure that's something that will continue in the coming year. So look for that. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Laura. Well, we are right at 1 o'clock and it looks like we were able to get to all of the questions that were submitted live too. So thanks team for answering those. I'm going to share my screen with just some final pieces of information to leave you with. And then if you have questions for us, please reach out. We're always happy to connect with you. So dates to save, new student orientation. In early July, you're going to be getting a link to complete online orientation. It's called Get Your Bearings, a little play on our mascot, the bear. And so look out for that in July because you'll want to complete that before you start classes. That is required. And then there are mandatory orientations for international students and Booter scholars on August 21st and then August 22nd. And then all new students will need to be here for new student orientation August 23 through 25th. That's all in person. So plan to be in St. Louis by those dates a little before so you can get here and get settled. And then first day of classes is August 28th. So it'll be here before we know it. All right, and here's our contact information. So if you have questions for anyone on this panel specifically, or just general questions, you can reach out to the admissions office or Brown School Student Financial Services, those two email addresses at the bottom of the screen. But thank you all so much for joining us today. We've really appreciated you being here, and thank you to this panel for being amazing and answering these questions so thoroughly. I appreciate you all so much. Have a wonderful day, everyone.